Welcome to Neural Pulse, your daily AI briefing.
Today we're looking at December 16th, 2025. And looking back, it really feels less like a single day and more like a structural singularity.
A singularity.
Yeah, a point where all these different forces, diplomatic failures, massive economic shocks, pure digital negligence, they didn't just happen at the same time. They converged, they interlocked and created this cascade of global risk.
And that's the core of our deep dive today. We're going to trace how stalling peace talks in, say, Ukraine and Gaza almost immediately trigger a crash in oil prices.
Right. And that financial strain then pours gasoline on military tensions, especially in the Indo-Pacific.
All while this just historic cyber breach happens in the background, which effectively rewrites the playbook for asymmetric warfare.
The main thesis here is that the world has now fully entered an age of uncontrolled multipolarity. We're past managed chaos.
The butterfly effect is accelerating.
Totally. The speed at which a rumor of peace can collapse the price of crude oil, which then hits Saudi Arabia's budget, which then forces their sovereign wealth funds to start dumping assets in London, that acceleration is the real threat vector now. Everything's connected, and the systems are just running too fast to control.
So let's start with the clearest evidence of that. Section 1, the ultimate threat vector, weaponizing identity. We have to talk about that 4.3 billion record leak.
This one is terrifying, mostly because of how simple the failure was. Just pure negligence. An exposed, passwordless MongoDB instance.
16 terabytes of data just sitting out there.
Just sitting there for anyone to grab.
Now, people hear data leak and they immediately think, credit card numbers, passwords, the usual stuff. Why is this one, with its enrichment data, so much more dangerous?
It's about the quality, not just the sheer quantity. This wasn't financial data. This was professional data, mostly scraped from places like LinkedIn.
So job titles, work histories.
Exactly. Job titles, employment histories, who reports to whom, past locations, and critically, network connections. You see, if a standard leak is a phone book, this is the ultimate org chart, pre-analyzed and complete with everyone's professional pressure points.
It's instantly actionable.
Precisely. It just exponentially increases the precision for attacks like spear phishing or social engineering. For an intelligence agency, and our sources point to China and Russia here, this is goldmine for human intelligence operations.
So they can just pinpoint the exact right person to target.
With surgical precision. An employee in critical infrastructure, a defense contractor, someone in government who has a specific vulnerability. Maybe they just got laid off, maybe they have debt, maybe they've been complaining online. It turns espionage from a broad net into a guided missile.
And on the financial side, we should probably brace for a huge spike in synthetic identity fraud.
Oh, absolutely. That's where attackers take fragments of real data from this leak, a real name, a real date of birth, and combine it with fake data to create a brand new, totally credible identity.
And these synthetic people can pass basic checks.
They can. They can secure massive loans, open credit lines, and just drain liquidity from the system for years. It's a real economic time bomb, all from one unsecured database.
Meanwhile, on the corporate side, we saw SoundCloud get hit by the Shiny Hunters group, a ransomware attack affecting something like 20% of their users.
And their response was, well, it was almost comically counterproductive. They blocked all VPN access.
Which created chaos for legitimate users who need VPNs for their own security.
Exactly. It just compounded the crisis, confused their customers, and showed how obsolete their security architecture really is.
It really highlights the complete loss of value in what we call static authentication, right? Passwords, birth dates, your mother's maiden name, it's all compromised now.
All of it. And what's so fascinating is the blue ocean signal this creates. This event doesn't just suggest a move to zero-trust architecture, it mandates it. It pulls the timeline for adopting behavioral authentication forward by, maybe 20 years.
The companies that can deliver real zero-trust are looking at a much bigger market now.
Their total addressable market just exploded.
Okay, let's move from the digital battlefield to the physical one, because these things are all linked. Section 2, geopolitical friction, starting in Gaza.
Right, so the Trump 20-point peace plan seemed to have momentum, and then it just stalled.
Yeah.
You had bad weather delaying hostage recovery. Then Israel took out a Hamas HVT, Red Saad.
HVT being a high-value target.
A high-value target, yes. Yeah. Hamas retaliated, and the whole thing just fell apart. A diplomatic failure amplified by tactical events on the ground.
And that focus on HVTs, what does that imply strategically?
It implies Israel has shifted its military doctrine. They're moving away from massive ground invasions, which are costly, and toward a mow-the-grass strategy.
Mow the grass.
It's a perpetual high-tempo operation. using drones, special forces, to constantly degrade Hamas's ability to rearm or reorganize. It's not a war to win, it's a conflict to manage,
which guarantees long-term instability.
but avoids the cost of a full occupation. And of course, a physical ceasefire means nothing in the digital domain there. It's the world's most intense cyber war zone.
AI-driven signals intelligence from one side, mass #OpIsrael campaigns from the other.
Exactly. The digital front never sleeps.
And that kind of diplomatic deadlock is setting the stage for a similar frozen conflict in Ukraine. We saw the Berlin proposal from U.S. envoys.
Witkoff and Kushner, yeah. They offered Kyiv a bilateral security pact that was functionally equal to NATO's Article 5, a huge guarantee.
But there was a price.
Of course. The price was territorial compromise. Kyiv would have to make concessions, maybe accept a Donbas Free Economic Zone, which would de facto be under Russian control.
And Russia's response was predictable.
An immediate, flat no. They rejected it, refused a Christmas truce, and made it clear that any foreign military presence in Ukraine is an absolute red line for them.
So if neither side can win, what's the most realistic outcome here?
Our sources are all pointing to a Korean Peninsula model. You get a heavily armed, Western-backed porcupine state in Ukraine. It's a permanent buffer zone that's never formally allowed into NATO.
An endless resource drain for the West.
And Russia is already using cyber-physical attacks to enforce that stalemate. Hitting Ukraine's energy grid is coercive diplomacy. It's a way to weaken Kyiv's negotiating position by threatening to freeze the country over winter.
Which brings us to the money. Section 3. All these conflicts cost a fortune, and suddenly it's getting a lot harder for countries like Russia to pay the bills. Let's talk about the financial superglut.
The whole financial system was betting on geopolitical risk keeping oil prices high. But instead, speculation about peace, even fragile peace, combined with a massive oversupply just crashed the market. WTI dropped to $55. Brent went below 60.
Okay, I have to jump in here. If oil prices crash, isn't that good? I mean, for consumers, for inflation. Yeah. Why is this a major market shock?
Because it's a structural shift, not a cyclical dip. This is the precursor to what's being called the superglut of 2026. The geopolitical risk premium vanished, yes. But the real pressure is from non-OPEC plus output. The U.S., Guyana, Brazil flooding the market, plus you have structural demand erosion from China's slowdown and, EV adoption.
So this creates some very clear winners and losers based on their fiscal break-even points.
And they are stark. The losers are the Petro-states.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia needs oil at $96 a barrel to balance its budget. At $55, they are just hemorrhaging cash. Projects like Vision 2030 are under immediate pressure.
Can Russia?
Russia needs about $65. So this directly complicates their ability to fund a long war in Ukraine.
So there's the singularity again. The hope for peace financially starves the nations that rely on high oil prices to fund their aggression.
That's it exactly. And the winner, for now at least, is U.S. shale. Their average break-even is much closer to $50 a barrel, so the geopolitical leverage fundamentally shifts back to North America.
And what happens when that fire hose of oil money slows to a trickle globally?
The ripple effects are immediate. Sovereign wealth funds, the SWFs, they stop being aggressive global investors, and they pivot hard to cash preservation, liquidity hoarding.
So they pull back from global markets.
They pull back. And that creates a direct headwind for assets they love, like prime London real estate, high-end art, and luxury goods. You're talking about a direct hit to the revenue of brands like LVMH and Richemont.
Speaking of luxury markets, let's move to Section 4, the strategic tech trade dilemma in the Indo-Pacific.
Here we see Japan's massive military pivot under the Takaichi government. They're fast-tracking their defense spending to 2% of GDP 2 years ahead of schedule.
And this isn't just on paper.
No, this is real steel. Rapid construction of 4 new Taige-class submarines, 2 Mogami-class frigates. It's a very clear signal that Japan is shedding its post-war pacifist stance.
And China saw this as a red line.
They did. Their retaliation was both symbolic and economic. They sanctioned a former SDF chief for advising Taiwan. And what's really interesting is the consumer-level reaction.
The Japan avoidance.
Exactly. Wealthy Chinese tourists are deliberately shifting their luxury spending to South Korea, to Southeast Asia. The shops in Ginza are feeling a very real, non-tariff economic hit.
This whole situation really puts the new U.S. strategy under a microscope. Trump's NSS 2025 frames the commitment there as purely transactional. It's about burden sharing, not values.
And that transactional approach led to a fatal compromise. The administration approved the export of Nvidia's H200 AI chips to China.
Help us square that. Why is that specific chip approval such a major internal conflict? It's corporate revenue versus national security, right?
It's the ultimate example of it. The H200 is one of the most powerful chips for training large-scale AI models. When you think about military AI, you have to think about C4ISR, command, control, comms, computers, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance.
All the brains of the operation.
All the brains. The PLA's ability to develop autonomous drones, to process battlefield data, to integrate swarm technology, it all depends on that computing power.
So by exporting the H200, the U.S. is literally selling the PLA the tools to accelerate its own military AI development.
It is pure short-term thinking. You maximize Nvidia's quarterly profit today at the strategic cost of accelerating China's military modernization tomorrow. The amount the U.S. will have to spend to counter that capability down the line will be exponential. It's just not a sustainable trade-off.
Okay, let's wrap this up by looking at the U.S. macro picture, Section 5.